So I want to introduce you now to Helen, because Helen has an amazing story to tell. And, it's all very well me talking about neurons and action potentials and how our thoughts cause our body's biology to change and how it affects the structure of our minds and how we can affect the structure of our body as well by changing our thoughts. But I think it's really useful to hear from somebody who really has been through this process of healing. And Helen's story is absolutely miraculous, and I'm delighted to be able to share that with you today. Here's Helen. So I'm really excited to welcome Helen to the Conversations with the Subconscious. Welcome, Helen. Thank you so much for agreeing to come and share your healing journey, your story with us on today's workshop.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
So obviously I spoke with you at the early part of this year, and your story completely blew me away. When you shared your story, I was doing it live on the radio, and there wasn't a dry eye in the studio. Everybody was really blessed by your story, and we've had a few conversations since then. I think we've become quite good friends since then, and your story is just absolutely inspirational. But for those who've not heard your story, tell us a little bit about what happened and the injuries that you sustained at the very beginning of your journey, if you like.
Well, I've been pretty poorly, suffering from various different things throughout my whole adult life. And I got to the point where I was about 32 stone in weight. So I was considerably heavier than I am now. And I left my house at late September 2006, and I was on my way to an appointment, and I was rushing, and it was a very cold, blistery, rainy, sheet rain kind of day. So the road was quite slippery and everything. And I got about 50 to 75 yards from my front door, and two men came either side of me. And I carried on trying to go. So I think I made it about 100 yards from my home. And they just overpowered me, and they dragged me behind two. It was like an alcove of wheelie bins, like a wheelie bin storage. And they dragged me behind the wheelie bins, and we ended up having a huge fight. And where I am visually impaired because I have albinism, I didn't see, but one of them actually had a knife, and I ended up getting severely raped. They jumped and stamped and kicked all over my abdominal cavity. And I didn't see the knife at all, and it ended up plunging into my neck, and it severed the nerve channels, and I ended up dying at the scene. A policeman saw them running away from the main road, and he came to see what they were running from, and he found me, and he resuscitated me. But I wasn't conscious. I actually woke up in hospital several hours later. It may have even it was as much as 10 or 12 hours later. I don't really know, but it was a considerable length of time. I woke up from that nightmare completely paralyzed, where my abdominal cavity was just so badly stamped on, and it had just blown up. So I woke up paralyzed, and I had the base of my spine was, the nerve channels weren't joined up to the brain anymore. So I was in quite a horrific state. But the following morning, when I woke up in the hospital, they actually told me that they couldn't give me severe treatment for these injuries, or my nerve it's a complete central nervous system collapse, because where the knife went in, it severed nerve channels.
Yeah.
They found out that I was actually pregnant with my sixth child, and so it was one of those things where suddenly I'd lost my life. My life completely was destroyed. I mean, I've been a behavioral scientist my whole adult life as well. I started my career when I was about 18, because I was academically quite brilliant when I was young, and I consecutively scored in the top 2% for all my qualifications. And so this one set of moments completely robbed me of my life as I knew it. So I was paralysed, pregnant, in bed. I had severe, massive injuries. But, you know, because I had died at the scene and they were now telling me there's a baby in there, and the baby was about 18 weeks old as well. It wasn't like 5 weeks old or just a few days. He was actually full, big, sucking his thumb, swimming around baby, you know, which I could see on the big massive scanning screen that they took me down. They used the one that they look for kidney stones, you know, with the big screen, so that I could see. And because I was refusing to accept it, you know.
Can't be pregnant. It's not possible.
Yeah. Well, I was going through the menopause from 2002, so I hadn't had monthly menstruation for, you know, over 4.5 years. And so when they were telling me, I was like, no, I can't have any more children. You know, this is not possible at all. But no, it was a miracle. So when they told me I was having Harvey, because I had died at the scene and he was in there and he was still very much alive. Nothing had happened to him. He was perfect. You know, I vowed to have this child. And so when I went into labor, that was when I knew that my mind was a lot more powerful than I ever thought possible before, because paralysed, had no feeling from the diaphragm down, but I knew I was in labor. And my brain was registering something. So where they kept saying, you know, medical professionals kept telling me and were most insistent I'd never be able to move again, I just didn't believe it anymore, because I knew I was in labor. It was me that alerted everybody to the fact that this baby was imminent and this baby was coming. You know, this baby was coming out. I knew that my body was having contractions. I knew my brain was registering some intense pressure going on. And even when they cut me open to take him out, my womb was paper thin and the whole thing exploded. I knew, I was aware, I was fully aware of the tugging, the moving. Even when they took the baby out, I knew, even without looking, I knew. My mind and my brain was registering it all. And I was actually doing a running dialogue and describing in quite a hysterical state what was going on. So they knew that I knew. You know, I was very, very loud, very, very vocal. My partner at the time, Harvey's dad, he thought that I was laughing because he could hear from outside. But I was actually hysterical because I was trying to say, but you don't understand, you know, you know, and I was describing exactly what they were doing. And it just defied all logic, because in their minds, the medical profession, they were just the most insistent that wasn't possible. But there it was, live in the raw. I was actually doing it. So that was the moment when I realized, hold on a second, there's more to this. You know, there's more to this. I mean, if I asked you to point to your nose, you'd be able to point to your nose. If I said point to your chin, you'd be able to point to your chin. But if I said point to your mind, most people do this.
Yeah.
But your mind isn't in here. Your mind is everywhere in your body and outside of your body as well. And being able to tune into that is an absolute phenomenal journey, and one which began with me having this miracle baby. So if it wasn't for him, you know, I might not have known. I might not have started studying, and I might not have started questioning and being most insistent that, you know, your mind is infinite. It's not in here. It's throughout your body and all outside your body as well. And being able to tune into that and really enhance your state of being through doing this process, it's completely changed my life.
And this is what we're talking about today. We're talking about that mind power, and really doing my best to get the message out there about just how powerful we are. I mean, what an empowering thing it is to discover that we have the power to create our lives, to create our realities. It's incredible. So you were there, you were left, you had a new baby, a miracle baby who'd survived with you that awful assault, and you were left, but you were still paralyzed, and your abdomen was very badly damaged, and you had other damage as well to your body. Physically, you were very poorly, but you also had some other medical conditions as well. You were overweight, but you also had some cancers as well to deal with.
I did. I had 15 rounds of abdominal surgery in the 7 years that I was paralyzed. I lost whole organs. So I lost my spleen, my gallbladder, 4.5 meters off my bowels. My stomach is actually now a pouch because it had torn, and where it had started ballooning out, it had started to join fibrous tissue to the side of my intestinal wall. And so the two had started to morph into this sort of like alien-looking new entity, really, in my abdomen. So when I was eating, I was actually poisoning myself because it was falling straight through the wall of my intestines, and so I was getting into toxic shock. So I had a lot of emergency surgery, 15 rounds. And therefore, because they were emergency situations, they totally missed that. They knew I had immune deficiency because I had lost my spleen during the assault. But they missed that cancer cells had started forming in my lymphatic system through toxic shock through the body. I haven't been told that it was through toxic shock through the body that caused this to activate. But my intuition is telling me that that's why. It was because I just went through hell for 7 years. I was continuously operated on, treated for various things, trying out different drugs, trying different therapies, trying different things to get the nerves. You know, they were injecting me with electromagnetic kind of like receptors in my legs and stuff, and it was just causing an you know, a non-balance. Nothing was balanced. And so I got to like the 7-year point, and I just said no more, because I just knew that all of this was just total nonsense. You know, I knew who I was. I knew who I've always been. And I started to fully trust myself and trust what my inner voice was saying. My inner voice was saying, you know, I've always been an exceptionally strong, sparkly individual. You know, I've always had brains. You know, I've always had intellect and education, and you know, I was this fancy professional person before this happened to me. So I started to fall back on inbuilt skills that I'd had for resilience and being able to speak, because when you're in a highly emotional state and you're suffering from extreme trauma, and plus you've got the post-traumatic stress from somebody, 2 men raping you and stabbing you in the neck, you know, that's pretty horrific. So everybody thought, oh, maybe the poor love is, you know, maybe she's gone mental.
Gone a bit bonkers.
Yeah, maybe she's gone a bit mental. And the
thing is, when we've had extreme traumas like that, and when we're in that emotional state, we live in that nightmare in our minds. We never escape it. You know, when one of the things I love about clinical hypnotherapy is that you don't have to take your client, your patient, through that horrible traumatic experience to heal them from it. But when you've had a trauma, and you know, if you break a leg, you remember that it hurt, but you don't really remember the pain. But when you've had painful, traumatic experiences, when you remember them, you feel the pain fully of that memory of that situation all over again, as if it's happening to you again and again and again and again and again, and you're just re-traumatizing yourself. And that
you're reprogramming it in, basically.
You're reprogramming your whole mind, your whole body to deal with living in a situation where you're going to get attacked every day.
So the thing is, for me as well, it was like being paralyzed. They were sending nurses in, and some of them were men, and they would just let themselves into my house. They wouldn't even call out or anything. And where I am partially sighted because I have albinism, I was terrified. I'm not going to lie, I was absolutely terrified, and I
Yeah.
just didn't want to feel like that anymore.
No.
I was so sick of pretty much a daily occurrence of being in a vulnerable position and feeling
Mm.
like I was in a vulnerable position. And where I tried to articulate how I was feeling and that I wanted to be over it, I wanted to be strong, I wanted to educate myself on the medical background of using your mind to, as a driving force to change
Mm.
things and progress you forward into the next set of moments, then the next, then
Mm.
the next. I just sounded like a nutcase. I really did, because I was so frightened.
Yeah.
And all these strangers were coming into my home and they were assessing this and prodding and touching me and moving me about and everything. I just couldn't cope. So I started screaming and shouting instead, because I just wanted to be left alone so that I could research,
Mm.
educate myself, study, and not be that person that was being pushed around and not
Mm.
able to make their own decisions, and not even like, I mean, can you imagine what that's like? You're lying there quite often in a pile of your own urine,
Mm.
or worse still,
Yeah.
you're soiled everywhere with liquid, um, which is like syrup, and
Yeah.
you're lying in a pool and somebody's letting themselves in and you cannot do a single thing about it, and complaining makes you look crazy.
Mm.
So you've got sores on your skin, they're coming in, they're spraying you with fake skin, they're cleaning you up basically, not even properly, basically, and they're spraying you with fake skin, and your brain, your mind is registering this horrific pain. Even though you're paralyzed,
Yeah.
your
It's
brain is still
just
registering
feels
the
like
whole
another
thing. Yeah,
assault again and
it
again.
was it
Yeah.
was just it was just playing out on repeat.
Mm.
So, I really did. I started to find my voice, and I started to, well, actually, no, no, no. And I really did. I really, really did. I started to really have this fierce, intense belief in who I am. When you stand in front of a mirror at age 10 and you look at yourself, the only thing that changes when you're 50 now, because I've just turned 50 a couple of weeks ago, the only thing that changes when you stand in front of a mirror looking at yourself at age 10 and age 50 is trick of the light, and also your body's aged. The
Mm.
body's aged, that's it. You're still the same person, the same essence, the
Yeah.
same set of energy, the same life force that you were when you were 10. Your brain is different because you've become educated in different ways.
Mm.
So your level of education is different from when you were 10. But actually, you are exactly the same person. And I've always been able to cope with the most horrific sets of circumstances throughout my life. And this was no different. So I started falling back on my hero, which is myself as a child.
Yeah.
That person wasn't afraid of anything. That person, whenever I share a picture of myself at age 8 or so, I say this is my hero pic. This is my hero picture, because I am her. I started to remember the feeling, how it feels in here to be her, to be this fearless person, to not just accept what people were giving to me, to be able to say, I don't like this, I don't want this,
Mm.
and being able to just believe in myself and be completely fearless. That was the beginning.
So you became fearless and you found your voice. I love that you found your voice. And then you started changing different things in your life, because at one point you were told you were going to die, and
Oh, yeah.
I spoke to you 2,000 days on after that, and you were still alive and breathing and actually very healthy. You were told you were going to be paralyzed for the rest of your life. You've proved them wrong there too, and we'll get to that a bit of the story eventually. But there was that defining moment, where you started to make changes. What changes did you implement in your life that you feel really contributed to your healing journey?
When I stopped believing in the narrative that we are a past, present, and future.
Mm.
Somewhere down the line, my future self has got a memory of us doing this interview. And in the past, my past self envisaged me being a public speaker and an inspirational woman and doing this type of thing. So I stopped believing in the linear timeline of past, present, and future, and I started to really fully imagine myself as thriving, completely illness and disease free, like I am now.
Yeah.
And then I started living in my mind as if I am exactly as you see me now. When I was severely overweight, paralysed, even when they told me I had 100 days to live, I was, in my mind, I'd already made the shift, and then I just needed the rest of me to catch up. So I started going down the road of holistic health, healing modalities, meditations, all the whole works, you name
I
it.
love, I
I've
love
been there.
Yeah, I love that you say that kind of you started visualizing, you started imagining this person that you are now, because that's really the language of the subconscious is the imagination. The language of the subconscious is emotion. And if we can imagine and if we can stimulate that a positive emotional response while we're having that imagination process, while we're imagining doing the things that we want to do in our lives, and we imagine we've already achieved those objectives, if we can really see ourselves in that place in our imagination, what we're actually doing is we're actually laying down neural pathways. Our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined, so it just goes, oh yeah, we're clearly walking and living this way and doing this, and we've achieved this already.
Well,
and then when it comes to actually doing that, we've already got the neural pathways there, so it just kind of, we just step into it like it's second nature. But I believe that it can even go one step further, and I think you're real evidence of this, in that by having those conversations, we are stimulating the inner physician, that we know how to heal ourselves. If you cut your finger, your body knows how to heal itself. We don't have to kind of like tell our subconscious mind how to do it. It just automatically knows how to do it. But I think when you've had a series of really big injuries or accidents, having that conversation, that using that powerful imagination, the tool of the imagination, and the power of emotion, and seeing it and feeling it, we can actually change our cells. We can speak to the cells in our body, and we can stimulate healing within ourselves. We can stimulate anything. When you think about it, if we can heal ourselves in that way, we can do anything. We are absolutely limitless, and we are only held back by this belief in a linear time. We're only held back by our limitations, the limitations that we put on ourselves. So you obviously started eating differently, you started doing all sorts of different things, really researching holistic therapies, but you really stepped up this whole imagining process. What conversations were you having with your subconscious mind that you felt really healed you?
Well, there was a huge disconnection with having gone through years of sexual trauma before this incident happened to me, and I had a domestic violence marriage as well. I was disconnected from my body. I actually had a love-hate relationship with my unusual appearance of having white hair, no pigment. I had a love-hate relationship with it because it was, bullies loved it when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So anything different, you become a target. So I had a love-hate relationship, plus I was severely overweight. And I started to, first of all, I knew I had to overcome this. I had to actually start loving my body inside and out the way it was. Now, my body had been through hell before the incident, before that one incident. It had actually been through hell before. I mean, I had, I've given birth 7 times. I've had so many illnesses. I've had a nervous breakdown in the past as well. I was dosed up on antidepressants in the 90s. I'd taken like copious amounts of cocaine, speed, all kinds of things when I was much younger. I'd I'd drunk a lot of alcohol. You know, I had just taken my body completely for granted. You do when you're younger. You sort of think, oh yeah, I'm going to be around forever. You know, I'm totally invincible. I can do anything. You know, I can. You know, I was a dancer when I was younger. When before I put on loads of weight when I was late teens. Before that, all my childhood, I was a ballet dancer. I was very good at tap because I was very good at timing, and you know, I put my body under extreme stress. I was Olympic training as a swimmer as well, and my body was just exhausted. It was just so tired, and I was repeatedly told I was ugly, I'd never be a real woman, and all these things were just all in there. They were all in there. It was this huge jumbled bag of absolute crap, basically, and I hated it all. I loved carrying around this bag of rubbish. You know, I loved carrying it around. I mean, it was comfort. So the first thing I had to do was get rid of that. And so I started to really learn. And when you start to see cells under a microscope, they're absolutely fantastic. It's sacred geometry at its finest. You know, how a cell mutates and grows, and then parts of it fall away and new parts emerge, and it was like watching a Disney movie. You know, one of Disney's first animated movies, Fantasia. There's clips in Fantasia that remind me of cell formations and how cells renew themselves and develop, and I fell in love with the whole process of what my body was doing on the inside, which then led me to falling in love with the outside as well, you know, because I'd never done that before. It was all new, you know, and I still was massively overweight, really, really ill, you know, but I started to actually, I knew I had to work with what I had. And so in order to change it, I had to first fall in love with it. And so that's what I had to do. It wasn't, when somebody first said that to me, I thought they were crazy. You know, I thought, this is absolutely ridiculous. But the most soul cleansing thing I've ever done was actually take a long, hard look at myself and actually start to love every single aspect, inside and out. All the parts, every single part, every hair, every single cell, every single emotion, every single traumatic experience, everything, just every memory, everything. And I soon started to realize that in amongst all this bag of nonsense that had happened that I just didn't choose, you know, I didn't choose any of it, you know, there was all these fantastic memories as well. Yeah. And so I started to, the scales, the balance started to shift, because the more I remembered all the good things, just everyday things like learning to tie my own shoelaces when I was 4, or the first time I went on a surfboard, or the first time I went on a horse, or the first time I picked up a musical instrument. There was hundreds upon thousands of memories, and there was these traumatic things that had become so big in my mind that by remembering all the really special things about me, it made those things pale into insignificance. You see, for me, emotion is energy in motion. So you need to pay particular attention to where your emotions are going, which directions are they going in. See, these days now, it was very hard for me in the beginning to actually recall anything good, because the traumatic experiences and the illnesses and the disease as well, it was just all so that big.
Really dominating and encompassing.
Yeah, it was like huge clouds that I was in, not under, in. I was in these huge dark clouds all the time. But just slowly starting to remember all the other things that I've experienced, and all the other things that are so great, like having my children and being an amazing mum, and all the things that we've done together, and all the creative things that I love doing. Just by focusing on those, it made all the dark clouds disappear slowly. It was a very long process, you know, slowly, but they did. And now today, if you ask me now, but weren't you raped by two men and it was really vicious? I'd say, oh yeah, but it was just one incident. There's all these thousands of other massively brilliant stuff I could tell you about. You know, so it's like it's finding a balance, and
So,
remembering your essence, remembering where your essence has gone before, like where you have placed yourself before.
so what I'm hearing you say is that the first step really was kind of remembering your essence, remembering that you were still that 10-year-old little girl who was a superhero, and realizing the power that you have within you. I think that's a huge step. But then you went through this process of connecting or reconnecting with your physical body, understanding about the cells and how your body works and the systems, because that was how you reconnected. But you know, there are lots of meditations that are very much about feeling what your body is. All mindfulness stuff is all about feeling where your body is, isn't it? Where are you right here and right now? Really connecting with your physical body and being present in your body, and then just falling in love with yourself, the outside bits and the inside bits, and then starting to think those positive thoughts and reconnect with positive memories and experiences. And we call that harvesting those positive emotions. You go back to those positive times and you immerse yourself in those positive memories, and you turn up the volume.
It's not just the memories, it's the feeling as well.
Exactly.
You have to remember the feeling.
You turn up the volume on the emotions of those experiences and you gather them up, because we have all of this positivity within us already because of some of the good things that we've experienced in our lives. It's just about connecting with that. And when we've got that massive amount of positive energy, then we can use what I refer to as the law of dominant effect, and we can attach new conversations, we can attach new stories, we can attach new experiences, new visualizations, new imagination experiences. You know, we can attach to those positive emotions those ideas, those objectives, those beliefs, and we can start creating in our minds our new future. And with the law of dominant effect, basically means, you know, all those other things are just going to fall away, because your mind's going to go with what the winning emotion is. And if the winning emotion is something positive, and if the winning emotion is positive and attached to an image or an imagination of your body being healed or your business being a success, whatever it is that you want to achieve, that's going to really drive you in that positive way. So you remembered who you were, you connected with that, you connected with yourself, with your physical body, you fell in love with yourself again. And you were obviously doing this in combination with exercising and taking good nutrition and fueling your body. Tell me a little bit about what happened and how you healed.
Well, I started speaking with a guy online called Bruce Francis, who is an energy arts master. He's talked about how he had a broken back, he was in an accident, and he woke up from that and he started learning about Qigong, and he ended up going to China to study it properly and brought it back here to the Western world. But it was all about focusing your mind, about where your energy is going in your body, and how you can animate different parts of your body. So when I was paralyzed, I started studying Qigong and energy arts myself, first with him. But then there was a guy that was fairly close by, and I started speaking with him. And I got involved with the mixed martial arts world, of how to harness the energy that's flowing through all your cells and through your whole being, basically, that makes up who you are. And because I was a trauma specialist before, when you're going through extreme trauma, when you try to talk and express yourself, your words come out at the age you were before you experienced the trauma. So right before you first experienced trauma. And for me, that was around age 8. I was talking as an 8-year-old. So when people were saying to me, you do realize you sound like an 8-year-old, I started to say, bring it on, because that's, you know, that's obviously, that's your wolf. That's your fierce being. It's a way of your essence telling you you need to get back to who you are. So automatically your mind and everything puts you back, it resets you back to the person you were before anything happened to you. And when you were protecting yourself, you were in a nice little bubble. You were, you know, when you were happy, when you was experiencing your most happy moments. So it's really key to, for me it was anyway, it was really key to realize that yes, I did sound like I was below the age of 8, but that strengthened me. You know, knowing that actually did strengthen me. So I started to do energy arts, and I started to try to feel how I felt back then now. So if I was going to have an injection or something, you know, 8-year-old me would have probably been like this, you know, like, and so I started behaving how I would have when I was younger. Yeah. And I found a great deal of strength in that. But then when I met my surgeon, I had been harassing the hell out of this surgeon online. I'd done research for people who specialized in really obscure abdominal surgery, and I was bombarding this poor guy with emails, phone calls, you name it. I was trying everything to get his attention. He eventually wrote back to me, and I sent him some photos of my medical records, and he said, look, Helen, you know, I really want to take a look at you, but you're so severely overweight, I can't possibly, because it'd just be too dangerous. So he said, I need you to lose 5 stone in weight and then contact me again. So that's when I started to really look at, we're taught that fats, carbs and proteins is the way to go. But I started to look at, I just couldn't do a standard diet plan. There was no way. I would just be failing like non-stop. So it'd be a non-stop epic fail, because my birth family is actually Anglo-Indian. And so our culture of food was, you know, Eastern. It wasn't anything to do with Western food. And so my palate, my taste things, I was thinking, God, you know, I need to eat something that I am going to be able to sustain. So I started rewriting everything, making plans and rewriting everything with much less fat, because I wasn't moving about. I didn't need carbohydrates because I was paralyzed, right? I didn't need to burn off 2,400 calories a day. I needed less than 800 because I just wasn't moving. And so I started to adjust the meals to dictate and respect what my body was doing, not the other way around. I wasn't eating to then go and like burn it off in a gym or anything. I was eating to be in bed, you know, like, So it sort of begs the question, you know, why was I eating at all? You know, to sustain my life, yes. But I completely changed from my mindset around food. My relationship around food completely changed, because food is energy as well. Right. So I started to eat to enhance my mind energy, because being paralyzed, got nowhere to go. You know, what else can you do? You know, I was feeding my mind energy with high energy foods. I started to, the relationship between what you eat and your essence being flourishing and glowing is really serious. You know, if you're continuously eating low energy foods, mass produced, refined, lots of sugars, you know, then you're going to be a reflection of what you eat.
It's like
so
putting diesel in a petrol car, isn't it? It's
so
not the work.
So I lost 7 stone in weight, and I started calling this guy back, and true to his word, he did give me an appointment. By the time I went to see him, I had lost 8 stone in weight. So I'd started contacting him at the start of the year, and it was November I got into an appointment. He'd gone through all my notes properly, my medical notes, my medical files by then, and I had sent down, it was pretty much a filing cabinet's worth, like a 4-drawer filing cabinet. It was pretty much,
all your medical
there was boxes, there was boxes all around him when I went in to when I was wheeled in a wheelchair into his room. There was boxes all over the place, and he actually could paraphrase to me various things from different years, because obviously, you know, I didn't believe anyone was telling me by then. So I was quizzing him, and we had a good rapport, and he said to me, you know, look, I really want to do your surgeries, but they're going to be between 18 and 19,000 pounds just for me to have a look in there.
Wow.
I would like you to do my television programs. I'll put a feed of your abdomen live on television, and it's very, very risky. And I mean, there was massive risks involved, but I, at that point, would have agreed to anything, because I just wanted him to insert a camera, move things around a little bit, to have a look, to see if there was any way he could join some things up, make bridges or something, so that my brain could send signals to my legs. That was all I cared about. I didn't care about anything else.
Yeah.
So TV, I thought, bring it on. He said he didn't realize I had albinism, because that wasn't very clear in my medical records. Apart from when I was born, it said this patient's been born with albinism. Because one of the things that I've done throughout my entire adult life was be a woman first, a woman with albinism second, and a mum. You know, I'm a woman and a mother. It doesn't matter that I've got albinism. When I was injured, the two men didn't injure me because I had albinism. Albinism had nothing to do with it. You know, it's having no pigment, visual impairment, because the light does affect your vision. That's it. You know, you burn easily in the sun. There's nothing. Why would I mention it? You know, it's like it didn't even occur to me to say. So he said, you know, he wanted to put me on television. He felt like I deserved to, you know, he said I was too precious, because that was his exact words. You're far too precious. I need to have a look, but I need to do this on television, because then there wasn't going to be this whole pro forma invoice situation going on where he was looking for his fee. So I did the program. I asked him, could it be this year? That year, it was 2012. I asked him if he could do it that year, because I'd done the weight loss that year. You know, I'd made a start at the start of the year. And so New Year's Eve 2012, I went down with a camera crew who'd moved in with me by then for December. We'd done the whole, you know, they'd done the whole reality thing. They'd taken me to the swimming pool. A cameraman tried to get in the diving pool to film me under the water, but he couldn't keep up, because even paralysed, power swimming with my arms, because I was building them up. Oh yeah. Power swimming, dragging my body along. He still couldn't keep up with me. It was quite funny. And they'd sent a cameraman from the X Factor, no less, as well. And he had to get submerged underneath the water. So my other claim to fame is I've been underwater in the diving pool of a big, massive sports centre with the main cameraman feature of the X Factor, who couldn't keep up with me as a paralysed large woman, incidentally. So I went in for the operation. It was 9.5 hours. He did this whole speech at the start of the filming, when he was scrubbing up to go into the theatre when I was knocked out. How dangerous it was, and it was horrifically dangerous, but I didn't care, because I just wasn't going to live like that anymore.
No.
And so went in, had the surgery. 9.5 hours later, I woke up in recovery, and it was dark, because obviously they kept the specs going, because I don't like bright lights, it hurts me. So they'd kept it quite dim. I'd seen a toilet in the distance, just like, you know, like a standard hospital room where you're lying on the bed, there's a toilet sort of over there, like you can see it from your bed, like in a private room, you have like a toilet. I could see it, and I threw the blanket back, and I just got up and walked to this toilet. And I got into the doorway of the toilet, and I suddenly realised, because I was still quite out of it in recovery, you know, waking up from this operation. So I was still dosed up on quite a bit of drugs then. I stood in the doorway, and I started shaking, going, help me, you know. And the cameramen were there, the mouths open, completely in shock. I was in shock. I started shaking, so I'd realised what I'd just done. And they one of them was quite big, and Aaron, his name was Aaron, I'll never forget this. He picked me up, and he put me back in the bed, and he had tears streaming down his face. And the room was just filled with the most radiant, like, light. And it was like in that moment, I just knew what life meant, this life essence thing. It was like everything had joined up. So all the work I'd done, all the research, all the education I had about how cells work, how energy goes, where your mind goes, your energy flows, all of it, the whole picture, Qigong, raising energy from the ground and bringing it up through your body, spiraling down from the top and taking it through everywhere. Putting your mind back to when you was a child, the whole thing, it was like my life flashed before my eyes. The room was filled with light. I knew in that moment, everyone in the room knew, this is life, this is abundance, this is pure joy, pure love, pure everything. Everything was just, it was just a sacred moment, and I've never looked back since.
Amazing. So you remembered your essence, you connected with your physical body, you fell in love with your body again, inside and outside. You harvested those positive emotions and started having those powerful conversations with your subconscious, and visualizing your body healed and well, and researched all about the cells of the body. And then you learned about energy medicine and the power of energy and the energy that flows around your body and how energy works, and started fueling your body and mind with the right foods. And then with this amazing surgery, you walked again. You were no longer paralyzed. You were no longer paralyzed.
It's like I'd forgotten in my drug-fueled state. I'd forgotten that I was paralyzed, and I literally just threw the blanket back and walked there, and suddenly realized what I'd done. And it took a further 8 weeks to get me on my feet, but because I was recovering from major abdominal surgery. But it was absolutely incredible. It was absolutely incredible. You said something earlier, and it reminded me of this example I'm about to share. When I was going for rehabilitation after that operation, I got wheeled into a centre of excellence, and there was all these professional people around me, because I'm in a wheelchair sitting here, and they're all up here. They're all talking. I couldn't hear a single word they said, because when they wheeled me in, through the window, I could see an athletics track. And immediately, my brain, my mind, my whole body, every fibre of my being was remembering the feeling of what that was like to run around an athletics track. And my mind was already carrying this body around that track. So they were all talking, they were all saying things, and then they got to the end and they said, like, so what would you like to try first? And I was like, I want to go out there. And they was like, no, there's no point, because, you know, you probably won't make it out there for another 18 months. I said, I'm going to run around that track by Easter Bank Holiday Monday. Now, this was like the 7th of February. And Easter Bank Holiday Monday was, I think, the end of April, the last weekend in April that year, so 2013. And I said, no. My mind's already done it. My mind's just done it about 50 times while you were all talking. So I know that I just need to catch up. The rest of me just needs to catch up now. I've already been doing it. While you've all been talking, my mind's already been doing it. I've already done it. I already know that track intimately. I know every marking. I know every curve. I know how springy it is. I know how it smells. I probably would know how it tastes if I fell on it, you know, on my face. and you know, I was saying this. I was saying, no. That's what I want to do. And so even if I have to pull myself around by my arms, I'm getting around that track on Easter Bank Holiday Monday. And there was one guy in there. He was a Marine. It was a centre of excellence where the Marines trained. He just jumped up. He jumped off a piece of equipment and he came running over. He said, I believe her. I believe her. He said, I've seen people with injuries, you know, not as bad as hers, but I've seen them talk like that. And every single one of them has done it. Every single one of them that said with that determination that they're going to do something, they've done it, because it's your voice is what activates the energy running through your body. So when you're talking to your insides and you're talking, it's completely liberating. It's self-liberation. You must be telling yourself, I am beautiful. I am strong. I love you. And you must keep on doing this repeatedly, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of times a day in your mind, thousands of times a day in your mind. But every now and again, you must say it out loud with your voice as well, because
Yeah.
that's how you get your energy flowing. Your
Declare
energy
it.
flows. And when you're thankful for what you have, because don't forget, I started having a gracious state of gratitude towards my body when it was massively injured, massively overweight, and massively torn to shreds, and horrifically assaulted. I started to have this dialogue with myself back then. So I started to be thankful for my body for bringing me to that moment, bringing me to this moment now, having given birth to my children, having danced, having been able to sing, having been able to swim, having been able to ride and do all, have sex, enjoy being a woman, all those things. I started to live in gratitude. Now, when you're living in gratitude for yourself, it is absolutely impossible. You can test it out. It's impossible to feel anything negative about yourself.
It's absolutely true.
So
It's not possible to have a positive and a negative thought in your head at
they
the same
can't exist
time.
simultaneously.
No. So
So
while you're in that
by
place of
being
gratitude,
thankful,
yeah, superpower of positive emotions is gratitude.
yeah, being
Um,
thankful for your body, what you have, everything you have right here, right now in this moment. But you must be constantly saying it and constantly saying, I love you. And
yeah.
you must mean it. You must mean it. It must be from your heart
Mm.
brain, your gut brain, your mind brain, your hearing brain, your
Yeah.
sight, all your senses. You must feel it throughout everything. Just say, I love you.
Mm.
I'm so thankful for you.
Mm.
And you will start to feel that abundance. I know that it sounds pathetic. I know that it sounds crazy, but actually having done it, actually
Mm.
doing it still, actually, every day, there isn't a day that goes by. I wake up in the morning, thank you, thank
Yeah.
you. I say to myself, thank you. Say to the universe, thank you. I'm just so thankful to be here. It's an honor and a privilege. I mean, they say that you only live once and then you die, but I don't think that's true. I think that you're born every day, you live every day, and you only die once. Die once. See, I haven't died. You know, yes, I was resuscitated. Yes, I've been through horrific experiences, but hey, my life essence was not put out.
Not
My
at all.
life essence was still very much intact with a baby inside my body. And so therefore, I know this to be 100% true. You are born every day in every moment. You're born. You can just choose it. You can just switch. Um, I, I'm constantly saying it. I woke up one day, I did not want to feel like that anymore. So I
Yeah.
just didn't. I just didn't. And every time a thought comes into my mind in the past, because it doesn't happen anymore, but in the past, if a thought had come into my mind, like, oh, I think I'll eat a packet of biscuits, I could literally just punch myself in the face. What the hell are you saying, woman?
Mm.
You're doing this so that you can improve. You can improve your state of being and having a healthy, thriving body now. Because, like you say, it was 5 years, 10 months, and 5 years, 10 months and 1 day ago that they told me I'd be dead within 100 days. And look, I didn't listen. I just didn't listen
Right.
because I'd already become very good at hearing my own voice by
Yeah.
then. So
You
I
are.
didn't
You
believe. I
are.
just wouldn't listen. I just
Yeah.
wouldn't listen. That's it. I couldn't hear it. The
No.
vibration didn't match my vibration. And therefore, it didn't belong. It just didn't fit in here. Didn't fit in this picture.
No.
So I just said, okay, fine. And, I carried on listening to myself because I'd become very good at it by then. I mean, I'd walked when they said there was no hope. There was no hope in hell of me ever walking. In fact, the doctor who told me this, he was stroking my hand. He just, please, you might as well get used to doing everything from a seated position, dear. And I wanted to kill him because I thought he didn't know me. He didn't know that little girl
No.
that when asked to sing on stage or perform in front of people was fearless.
Yeah.
They didn't know that little girl that was beaten, continuously told she was ugly and everything, had still got up on the stage wearing a pretty dress, flowers in her hair,
Yeah.
singing and smiling and going round to old people's homes. care homes and brightening up the world for them, dancing, playing the tambourine with ribbons and glitter and stuff. You know, he didn't know that girl. He didn't know her. He didn't know me.
No.
And so none of it, you know, I'm never, ever going to listen to anything anybody says. If anybody tells me something detrimental about myself again, you know, I feel really bad for them in advance. I really do. Because now, you know, now I feel magical again.
Yes.
You know, I feel more radiant than I've ever felt in my life. And I've just turned 50.
Amazing. You are magical, and you are a real you're just evidence that, you know, you know that your beliefs become your biology. What your mind conceives, your body achieves. You know, we are the creators of our own reality, and we can see that very physically in your story as well. And I'm grateful. I love how you kind of the end of that, you know, you came to a point where you understood how energy medicine worked. You fueled your body, you fueled your mind, and you use these daily affirmations to really reinforce those images and that visualization of seeing yourself as a healed woman, and just, you know, doing that with such great gratitude. The superpower of positive emotions is just going to be such a dominant effect, isn't it, on the biology and on the cells, and your body healed itself. You survived so much. You are just absolutely, you're a miracle. But you're evidence, real evidence of how those conversations with the subconscious can be so very, very useful, powerful and healing, and can really take us to that beautiful life that we all deserve.
Can I, when I work with people, because I work with people from all around the world now, inspiring them to have this inner dialogue, I don't use labels.
No.
I don't like to use labels, because it's human conditioning to label everything.
That's right.
So when I'm working with people, the conversations that you need to have with yourself, use whatever language you fancy. You know, you could be saying, you know, you could, let's just say the liver, you could call the liver a cheesecake. You could say, I love your cheesecake. You know, you can use any language you want. It's just got to be personal and special to you. That's and I know that the whole thing sounds way too good to be true. But now I'm out the other side. I promise you, it's been a horrendous journey for me. It started long before I was assaulted and raped and stabbed in the neck, in the throat. But that incident changed my life. And I'm actually, you know, that experience of being paralysed, being stripped of every single bit of dignity, had no privacy, not able to make my own decisions, not able to reach a cup of tea if it was put down next to me. If it was just a few millimeters out of reach, I couldn't reach it. So I was at the mercy of other people. So having gone through that, I sound fierce now, probably because because that's been my education. The most important thing to me now is being able to use my voice to help others, to inspire others, that there is another way. You don't have to be at the mercy of anything. Be at the mercy of what's going on in the mind that is encasing you like a force field, and the one that's going on inside of you, and speak to yourself with love. You are here. I am here. Amanda's here. In this moment, you are here. You are completely whole. Everything else is insignificant. I urge everybody to just start pouring in love into themselves, because the world needs a lot more of that, especially now at this crazy time, right?
Absolutely.
Love is really and truthfully, it's the weapon, it's the fuel, it's the medicine, it's the healer. It is all you need. It is,
and it's unconditional.
It is the starting point. It is the starting point. See, as an architect, self-love architect, which is effectively another way of saying life coach, right?
Yeah.
But as a self-love architect, I inspire people to use love as their driving force within absolutely every area of their lives, and watch and see how quickly things start to change. So it doesn't really matter if you believe a word I'm saying. You know, I can assure you it's all true. And you know, I'd be happy to share medical records if that would help. But it is phenomenal. It is phenomenal. Once you start living with gratitude, you start pouring love into your life and into your insides. It's the dialogue of liberation. It's totally liberating and transforming. It
Amazing.
truly is.
Helen, thank you so much for coming on the Conversations with the Subconscious. You've been inspirational, and I'm sure people are going to love hearing your incredible story, your incredible journey. And thank you so much for coming and sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely again.